Commander, we have a reading you need to see.
Whatever it is, it can't be worse than the ion storm.
Commander Ordevin Kavash had weathered pirate raids, ion storms, and a reactor breach that still visits him in dreams. Nothing prepared him for a Tuesday lunch special. 6 systems away, on a scarred blue world called Earth, Norm Baxter tied his apron, wiped down the griddle, and started the chili. He did this every Tuesday. Same onions, same beans, same battered pot he'd owned since before his daughter was born. He hummed along to the radio, dumped in his spice mix without measuring. He never measured, 40 years in, and his hands just knew, and set it to simmer while he flipped eggs for the breakfast crowd. Above the diner, in geostationary orbit disguised as a weather satellite, the Vireth Covenant Scout drone quiet feather logged the moment as a routine thermal bloom. Ensign Sten Thallerai almost didn't flag it. Small heat signature, kitchen grade. He reported to the bridge. Some kind of stew. Nothing unusual. He was already reaching to close the file when the drone's chemical sniffer pinged twice, then 3 times, then didn't stop. That's odd, he said, mostly to himself, rerunning the scan to be sure it wasn't a sensor fault. It wasn't. What kind of stew registers on a weapons sensor? Scientist Dr. Retta Soras, xenochemist assigned to catalog Earth's food culture for the Covenant's first contact briefing, pulled the readout onto her console with the mild interest of someone expecting sourdough. She did not get sourdough. The airborne compound count from a single bubbling pot exceeded anything in her reference library: capsaicinoid concentrations, sulfur compounds, 3 separate irritant classes stacking on top of each other in a soup a human was casually stirring with a wooden spoon. "This can't be food," she murmured, running it twice. "This is a delivery mechanism." She widened the drone's sensor cone to the rest of the building. 40 more humans sat inside, and every one of them was eating it. Willingly. Norm ladled out 3 bowls, refilled the coffee at table 6, and told Mrs. Alvarez her chili was extra good today because he'd let the peppers get a little feisty. He had no idea what extra good meant on a molecular level, and if he had, he wouldn't have cared. He just liked when people came back for seconds. Word reached Officer Thallerai that the compound wasn't isolated. 3 more scans, 3 more kitchens, 3 more identical readings across the region, different pots, different cooks, same terrifying baseline. He widened the search planet-wide out of pure dread, and the map that came back lit up like a hazard grid, dense in some regions, sparse in others, but never, anywhere, at 0. He brought it to Soras with the calm of a man trying very hard not to panic. "It's not a weapon test," he said. "It's a recipe. They're doing this on purpose. Every day. For fun. And it's not just this pot. It's everywhere. Different names, different colors, same compound family." Soras didn't answer right away. She was busy rechecking whether "fun" was a mistranslation. By the time it reached Commander Kavash, the report had grown a name, incident designation, simmer, and a tone nobody liked. "Explain it to me like I've never seen a periodic table," he said. Thallerai tried. The active compound would strip the mucosa off of Vireth in under a second. A human eats an entire bowl of it, then asks for bread to go with it. "Bread. For dipping, sir." Kavash sat with that for a long moment. His species had spent 400 years perfecting biochemical deterrents for border enforcement, and this stew casually cleared every threshold they'd ever classified as "do not deploy without high command sign-off." "Get me a sample," he said. "And get me the recipe." Neither request went well. The sample came back first, and it came back worse. Soras ran it through isolation, dilution, and 3 levels of neutralizing agent before she got numbers she trusted. Then she ran it a 4th time, certain she'd made an error. She hadn't. "Commander, this isn't even their strongest version," she said, voice flat with the particular horror of a scientist watching a hypothesis collapse. The colored bottle on their counter, the one shaped like a small aggressive bird, tested 4 times hotter. "It's optional. They add more if they want." "If they want." There's a sign near the register. It says, "Ask Norm about the Ghost Pepper Challenge." She looked up. "I don't know what a ghost is. I don't want to." Thallerai, against his better judgment, pulled public human broadcasts to see what a challenge involved, and immediately wished he hadn't. There were thousands of recordings, humans timing each other, cheering each other on, filming the aftermath for an audience. All of it framed not as an accident, but as sport. One video had 11 million views. The top comment, translated twice for accuracy, simply read, "Do it again." "They keep score," he told Soras quietly. "There are leaderboards." Worse, the footage wasn't limited to adults. Buried in the same broadcast archive were smaller humans, barely past infancy by Vireth reckoning, unwrapping brightly colored candies that tested only marginally weaker than Norm's chili, and eating them at what looked disturbingly like a school function. Nobody was supervising for casualties. Nobody seemed to expect any. "Are the small ones being punished?" Storie asked, already dreading the answer. "No," Soras said. "I believe that's recess." The recipe request went to Norm directly, routed through a very confused university professor who'd agreed to help the food anthropology survey for extra credit for her grad student. Norm was delighted. Nobody had ever asked for his chili recipe before, not even his ex-wife. He wrote it out longhand on a napkin, added a note that you could substitute turkey for beef if you're being healthy about it, which don't, and mentioned, almost as an afterthought, that his cousin Dale made it hotter, and that Dale's version had put a grown man from the fire department on the floor at last year's cookout. "Man just wasn't ready for it," Norm wrote. "Good guy, though. He still comes in Tuesdays." The Covenant translated that last line 4 separate ways before giving up and forwarding it to the commander unedited. Kavash read it twice. Then he understood, in the way you understand a wave a half-second before it breaks over you, that the danger here was never the compound. It was the culture built around it, a species that had taken a substance capable of clearing a starship's crew deck and turned it into a bonding ritual, a bragging right, a Tuesday. They didn't fear it. They competed over it. They fed it to children in smaller doses on purpose, to build tolerance early, the way other species train soldiers. There was a whole category of human media dedicated to filming each other eating more of it than the last person, for entertainment, willingly, sober, on camera for strangers. "Cancel the cultural briefing," Kavash said quietly. "Reclassify the entire species as a chemical adaptive population. And somebody find out what a cookout is before it finds us." Nobody answered him for a moment. Then Soras, very carefully, asked whether the briefing should also flag that this appeared to be only one of several such substances in regular use, and that her preliminary notes already had 3 more compounds queued for review. Kavash told her that could wait until morning. He needed the morning. Norm never did hear back from the food anthropology survey, which was a shame, because he'd been looking forward to the mug they said they'd send. He closed the diner at 4 like always, wiped down the pot, and left a little chili in the fridge in case Dale stopped by later, because Dale always stopped by later. "Nothing special today," he told his daughter on the phone that night. "Made the usual. Burned my tongue a little testing it, same as every week." 6 systems away, a scout ship quietly increased its distance from Earth's orbit by several 100,000 kilometers, and a commander who had never once flinched at a hull breach put in a formal request to never be assigned to this sector again. The request cited unacceptable psychological strain on command staff and was approved within the hour, which Storie privately considered the fastest paperwork had ever moved in the history of the Covenant. Norm, for his part, was already thinking about Wednesday's meatloaf. Somewhere in Soras's queue, an entry marked simply garlic was still waiting to be opened.